That's kind of very alarming to me. Why the hell would Future's blood brother, who kind of like runs the FBG label, why would he have a bunch of like, do people keep for their own personal use? No, right? I don't know too much about like that type of drugs, but no, right? So that kind of seems like they're doing some drug dealing, right? 21 kilos? Wow.
The feds just pulled off a massive sweep. And Future's blood brother FBG Casino is now staring down a federal case that could lock him up for life. This whole situation got the hip-hop scene in shock because behind Casino's loud lifestyle and his FBG ties, he was allegedly running something way bigger than anyone on the outside ever imagined. When the feds kicked that door in and found 21 kilograms of illegal product plus almost $400,000 in cash, it was clear they weren't playing around. But the real twist? What brought Casino down is way more complicated than what's floating around online. The feds ain't just looking at him. They're quietly stacking something way bigger that folks believe could stretch all the way toward Future himself. This ain't some small-time mess. This is federal-level smoke. So let's break down how this whole thing really popped off. The street's been talking loud about Casino getting grabbed, but the truth is way wilder than random rumors. November 19th, 2025. That's the day everything flipped for Rico DeVille Boyce, better known as FBG Casino, Future's real-life blood brother. This man, 41 years old, was chilling at an Airbnb in Forest Park, Georgia, when the federal task force slid in like a storm, tearing down everything in its way. And don't get it twisted, this wasn't no regular arrest. These were federal charges, mandatory minimum territory, the type of case that comes with a whole lot of years attached. They hit that spot like they already knew exactly what they were looking for. But here's the part that got everybody whispering. Casino been moving around for a long time, so why the sudden heat now? Why'd they choose this moment to scoop him up? That's what had folks talking big, because once you see what happened days before the arrest, it all starts to make sense. On November 14th, 2025, just 5 days before they officially grabbed him, federal agents from the FBI, DEA, and Clayton County Police pulled up to that Forest Park rental like they were filming an action movie. And when Casino spotted them rolling in, he tried to dip out the side door, hoping he could disappear before they got close. But trust, once the feds pull up like that, it's already too late. This man is 41 years old out here trying to run from the feds like he's still a young hustler in his early 20s. But here's what he clearly forgot. Federal agents do not pull up unless everything is already planned out to the last detail. They had this whole operation mapped like a blueprint. Probably been tracking Casino's every move for months. So when they caught him trying to hit that side door escape, all they did was grab him up and find $4,000 cash in his pockets. Now look, $4,000 might sound like a solid stack to the average person, but for someone allegedly pushing the type of weight Casino was tied to, that was nothing but lunch money. And yeah, in the hood, running from police is almost instinct. You see badges and you panic. But when it's the feds, that's a whole new temperature of pressure, the type you can't just sprint your way out of. See, Casino's situation wasn't no basic street-level hustle. This wasn't a corner operation. This was allegedly a full-blown distribution setup, organized, structured, and hidden for years. And that's where things get even crazier, because now we gotta talk about David S. Devin Montello Diaz, the 23-year-old from Coachella, California, who got swept into this whole storm with Casino. This cross-state plug situation is probably what put them directly on the government's radar. When you moving product from California to Georgia, that's interstate commerce. And that's exactly the kind of thing that makes the feds start paying attention real fast. That kid from the West Coast probably thought he was making some fast money, but now he's staring at the same possible life sentence Casino is fighting. And that $4,000 in Casino's pockets, man, that was nothing compared to what they found once they got inside the spot. They uncovered 21 kilograms of dangerous product, $380,000 in tight rubber-banded stacks, a money-counting machine, a food sealer setup, and a Glock 19 sitting there like it was part of the decor. That ain't messy hustling. That's organized business right there. And if that wasn't enough, the Fed said they found another $80,000 stuffed inside a designer bag tied directly to Casino. This man was living like a full kingpin out here, while his brother is sitting on hundreds of millions. Here's where this whole situation goes from wild to straight unbelievable. Casino literally popped up in Future's music video called Feds Did a Sweep. And in that video, he's surrounded by cash, product, and the exact lifestyle that eventually got him snatched up. It's like real life, and the music blended together, and he was basically showing the world what he had going on. And trust, federal agents definitely pay attention to things like that. But this story runs way deeper than some simple possession charge. Casino been tied to this lifestyle for a long time, and he talked about it openly. Interviews, street stories, even mixtapes. This man never hid anything. Back in 2013, he even dropped a tape called Ex-Drug Dealer. But looking back, it's clear that the X part was more for the image than reality. Let me lay out Casino's timeline because this situation been cooking for over a decade, piece by piece. In 2013, he dropped that Ex-Drug Dealer mixtape, saying he was done with the streets and fully focused on his music bag. And the project wasn't no small thing either. It featured Future, Young Scooter, and had production from Metro Boomin and Zaytoven. Basically, all the heavy hitters running Atlanta at the time. Casino was trying to position himself like someone who left the old life behind and stepped into something bigger. But then we jumped to 2017, and Casino is doing interviews with DJ Small's Eyes talking about how trapping is end, saying real trappers don't exist anymore. He was on camera explaining how the game changed, how people move sloppy, how folks posting everything online, and basically building cases against themselves. And the crazy part? That's exactly what he was doing without even realizing it. Because when you look back now, the irony hits different. Years of interviews, videos, flexes, and posts were basically helping the feds connect dots they probably already had. And then there's that street politician interview. Casino riding around allegedly strapped, talking about having shooters ready, flashing weapons in the back of a Rolls Royce like it was normal conversation. People in the comments were calling it out plain as day, saying he was moving reckless and turning his own life into evidence. One person dropped a comment saying, "How many homies gotta go to the feds before these cats realize these videos are just self-incrimination?" And honestly, that comment turned out to be basically a prediction. Now, for anyone who isn't familiar with how street culture works, let me break it down real simple. When someone keeps putting their business online, money, movement, weapons, lifestyle, the streets talk, the fans talk, and eventually, the feds start listening too. This whole situation didn't come out of nowhere. It built up piece by piece over years. When your own brother is worth somewhere between $50 and $100 million like Future, and you're still out here taking federal risks, that's either pride, stubbornness, or something way deeper in the culture. In the streets, people call that not wanting to feel dependent, not wanting to look like they're living off someone else. But Casino took that independence mindset to a whole wild level, choosing to gamble with his freedom instead of letting anyone think he was riding Future's success wave. But this whole thing gets messy fast, because Casino wasn't just Future's brother, he was also involved in the business side of FBG. Folks described him as someone who handled day-to-day operations, someone Future trusted with the label and the movement. And that's when the million-dollar question pops up. Where does the legit business end? And where does the illegal activity begin? That gray area is exactly what the feds love to jump on when they start building a RICO-style case. Now here's the real punch to the chest. Casino is staring at a mandatory minimum of 10 years, with the max being life in federal prison. At 41 years old, that's basically a slow-motion end sentence. But something about the timing here don't add up, and that's what got people paying attention. Casino been living like this for years, posting online, doing interviews, flexing heavy, even popping up in Future's Feds Did a Sweep video surrounded by stacks and product. So why did the feds strike now? Let's keep it real. Somebody definitely dropped a dime. You don't magically stumble into a spot holding 21 kilos and $380,000 cash plus equipment and a weapon. The feds had very specific intel. They knew the location, the timing, and exactly what they were walking into. That kind of precision only shows up when somebody gives detailed information. Casino been operating a long time, but something changed in the shadows. Maybe it was that co-defendant David Montello Diaz from California, the cross-state link that pulled federal eyes straight toward the operation. Once product starts traveling from coast to coast, the government gets interested fast. And let me break down how these federal cases actually get built, Because the feds don't just wake up and randomly decide to hit somebody's door. They build slow, they watch from a distance, they gather pieces until the picture is too big for the target to escape. When they move, it's because the whole case already locked in. The feds don't rush anything. They build these cases for months, sometimes even years. They sit back and run wiretaps, pull surveillance, track financial records, and most importantly, they start flipping people. Somebody in Casino's circle definitely got jammed up and decided to start talking to protect themselves. It could have been someone who got caught with something small and chose to give up the bigger player instead of sitting in a cell alone. That's how federal cases grow. And this situation ain't just about Casino getting caught with product. The feds love stacking up RICO cases, and they've already shown the blueprint with what they did to Young Thug and YSL. Think about the parallels for a second. Future got FBG, Free Band's gang, and Casino was basically running the daily operations. They got artists, business deals, money moving in and out. And now you add federal charges on top? The feds could twist that into a whole narrative real quick. They could easily frame Future as the leader of a criminal organization, saying he used his music empire to wash money coming from his brother's alleged operation. We already saw how they flipped YSL from a label into a criminal street gang in court. They used rap lyrics, social media clips, business records, everything they could find. And Future is sitting in an even more dangerous position because his own brother just got caught with 21 kilos and stacks of cash. The feds could try to argue that Future knew what was happening and used FBG to clean the money. That's a scary angle to think about. Future been rapping about trap life, the streets, moving weight, songs like Move That Dope and Karate Chop. His whole catalog is packed with references tied to the same lifestyle his brother was allegedly living. And you already know the feds love grabbing rap lyrics and spinning them in court like they're confessions. If they wanted to build a heavy case, they could claim FBG wasn't just a label, but a whole criminal setup, with Future as the boss and Casino acting as the one handling the gritty side of things. That's exactly the type of storyline prosecutors love in federal court because it sounds dramatic and dangerous. And here's another angle the feds are probably digging into, the money trail. If Casino was pulling in hundreds of thousands from illegal activity, where was all that cash actually going? Was it staying in the streets? Was it being funneled through legit business moves? Was any of it touching FBG accounts or connected ventures? Those are the kinds of questions the feds investigate down to the penny. Was any of that money sliding into FBG? Were some of those legit business moves actually disguised as money laundering flips? The feds got forensic accountants, people who do nothing but trace dirty cash through clean businesses like it's a puzzle, and trust, they don't miss a thing. And this situation ain't about just one arrest. This is about how the feds operate in 2025. They're not satisfied grabbing street-level players. They want the whole organization from bottom to top. Look at YSL. Look at how they pushed pressure on Cash Money back in the day. Look at the BMF case. Same pattern every time. They scoop the soldiers first, then squeeze until they reach the generals. That's the federal playbook. And here's what really had my mind spinning. Why now? Casino been moving like this for years with no major federal heat. So what made November 2025 different? It could be the new Trump administration turning the pressure up on these types of cases. It could be somebody important inside Casino's circle catching a charge and deciding to cooperate. Or it could be that the feds finally finished gathering enough evidence to fire off a bigger RICO case, and Casino's arrest was just phase one. But here's the part that really got people scratching their heads. Why was Casino still in the streets when Future could have easily put him on payroll? We talking about someone worth hundreds of millions, and his blood brother was still out here risking a federal life sentence. For what? Pride, independence. Or maybe Future stepped back because he knew Casino was playing with fire and didn't want that heat near him. In the streets, there's a mindset that you don't abandon the game that raised you, even when you get legit opportunities. Some folks feel like they owe the streets something, like they can't just cut ties with the network they built brick by brick. Casino might have felt like walking away meant leaving people behind, or breaking loyalty with folks who relied on him. But that same loyalty is now something that might cost him the rest of his life behind federal walls. Family love runs deep, no doubt, but business is different. Future probably told Casino years ago to chill, switch lanes, drop the street stuff, and lock in with the music. But you can't save somebody who doesn't want to save themselves. And now Future's in a dangerous position, because helping his own brother could end up pulling him into a federal conspiracy case he never wanted any part of. If Future steps in and pays for Casino's legal defense, the feds could easily try to flip that into evidence that a whole criminal organization is taking care of one of its own. That's how federal prosecutors spin narratives. They look for anything that can make a normal family move look like a criminal enterprise protecting its members. And the biggest question right now is whether this situation is truly just about Casino, or if the feds are cooking up something much bigger behind the scenes. Casino is hit with conspiracy charges, which already tells you the feds believe he wasn't operating solo. They got that California link with Montelo Diaz. They got years worth of social media posts, old interviews, music videos, and online flexes that they can twist into evidence. This feels less like a simple case and more like the opening chapter of a wider investigation into FBG as a whole movement. And here's something that shows how serious this is. The team that arrested Casino wasn't just local police or some small squad. This was a Homeland Security task force, a group specifically built to take down transnational criminal organizations. These folks got money, manpower, data systems, surveillance tech, all of it. When they show up, they aren't chasing scraps. They're hunting big targets. The fact they used this level of muscle on Casino's arrest suggests they believe this case is way bigger than one person moving product. But deeper than all that legal fire, Casino's situation is about pride, family, image, and the cost of not knowing when to change direction. This man had every single chance to leave the streets behind. His brother is one of the biggest artists on the planet, with more than enough resources to make sure Casino lived good without risking his whole life. He could have pivoted into the label fully, taken a legit lane, built something safer. But sometimes the streets don't let you leave. Or sometimes a person doesn't want to leave because the lifestyle feels like part of who they are. Casino's story is a hard reminder of what happens when someone can't evolve past the environment that raised them. He had the blueprint for a way better future right in front of him. His own brother went from trapping to superstardom, from the bottom to the Billboard charts, but Casino stayed locked into a world that was never loyal to him. And now at 41 years old, he's facing a life sentence for money he didn't even need and respect from people who won't be around if he ends up doing decades in a federal cell. And now the biggest question becomes, what happens next for Future and FBG? If the feds are quietly building a RICO-style case, this is just the very beginning. They'll be watching everything, every song lyric, every interview, every transaction, every connection. Future might have to make some of the hardest decisions of his career to protect his name, his label, and the empire he built. Because if prosecutors manage to argue that FBG is a criminal enterprise, that opens the door for them to start going after other labels, other artists, and other crews the exact same way. This could set a new precedent in hip-hop, one that changes the whole industry in ways nobody saw coming. Every rapper who ever talked about street life in their music could end up vulnerable if prosecutors keep pushing cases like this. This whole situation is way bigger than Casino. It's about how the feds are choosing to look at hip-hop culture and flip artists' own lyrics, interviews, and image into courtroom evidence. They did it to Bobby Shmurda, they did it to Young Thug, and now people are worried Future might be next on their radar. The message the feds are sending is loud. They don't care how successful you are in hip-hop. Record deals, platinum plaques, sold-out tours. None of that protects you from federal investigation, especially when your own family is still tied to the streets. What the feds are basically implying is that they don't believe hip-hop artists ever truly leave that life behind. They treat the culture itself like it's suspicious, like the music is some kind of disguise for illegal activity. That's a dangerous mindset because it puts every artist who came from rough environments under the microscope. When prosecutors start acting like the entire culture is criminal, it means any lyric, any music video, any old interview could be twisted into something it was never meant to be. And Casino is now the latest example. 41 years old, facing a possible life sentence over money he didn't need and respect from people who won't stand by him when he's locked up. Sometimes the hardest move a person can make is walking away from the life that built them. But the alternative is giving up the rest of your freedom. The streets don't go anywhere, they stay the same. But your time on the outside, that can disappear in a heartbeat if you don't make the right choices. And as for Future, you know he's got top-tier lawyers working non-stop to make sure none of this lands in his lap. But here's the truth. When the feds want someone, They find a way to link things together, even when the dots barely connect. Future's smartest move right now is to keep distance from anything that even looks risky, keep everything strictly business, and pray his brother's case doesn't grow into something that shakes up his whole world. What do you think about Casino's whole situation and how this could shake up Future's career? Do you see the feds gearing up for a full RICO case against FBG? Or is this strictly about Casino making his own decisions as a grown man? And real talk, do you feel Future should have stepped in earlier to pull his brother out of the streets? Or was Casino always going to choose his own lane no matter what anyone said? Drop your take in the comments because this one got the whole culture talking. And make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep bringing every update as this case unfolds. The streets are watching, the feds are watching, and we right here watching too, breaking everything down the moment it happens. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single update. These federal cases move fast, and when new details drop about this situation, you'll be the first to hear about it. And don't forget to check out the video on screen breaking down how the feds built their case against Young Thug, because the same playbook they used back then might be the exact strategy they're running right now against FBG. This is just the start of what could turn into a massive story, and we'll be locked in every step of the way. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and see you on the next one.